the next topic is one that's probably a little painful to talk about too, and that is your thoughts on this season generally and what we're going to be looking at going forward. Because if you look at our schedule next year, it's not as brutal. We are at Penn State, we are at Northwestern, we are at Wisconsin, but we have USC at home, we have Nebraska at home, we have Michigan State at home, we have Michigan at home, we have Indiana at home. And, of course, we're at Boston College. So the really tough games are going to be at home. But will that make a difference, or are we looking at another season like this one?
Is Michigan State going to be coached by Pat Fitzgerald next year? That'll be interesting to see develop.
UMass is the first game.
Yeah, against our good friend Harizmiak.
Poor Harizmiak.
Oh, Lord. Shoot. It feels – I feel confident in next year's schedule. It's honestly a less gruesome battle like this year. The only tough team I see on the schedule, of course, is Indiana, and we're going to see if Indiana is able to, one, get a lot of their players to come back, because I see a lot of draft picks. I don't see a lot of first-round draft picks outside of Mendoza and potentially Elijah Surratt. But there's a lot of players, especially on that defense, that's going to be eligible to go to the draft, and I can easily see them being day 2 or day 3 options. And outside of Indiana, USC is going to be a tough battle, but Nebraska looks like a team that could be winnable. Michigan State as well, and Wisconsin.
Penn State's going to be tough too, because we did just lose to them, and they'll have their coaching situation figured out, and they're still the top recruiting school in the Northeast, so they're going to be a challenge too. And you mentioned USC. Nebraska is going to be tough because I think Dylan Ravioli is going to be back there next year. And with Matt Rule, he doesn't beat those really elite teams, but he beats a lot of those middle tier teams, and that's what we are right now. And in the Big Ten, we're sort of closer to the bottom.
Yeah, and one thing I want to ask you guys is this. So generally speaking, when you look at not 2026, but you look 2 years from now, the 2027 schedule, we're at Indiana, we're at Michigan, we're at Nebraska, we've got Ohio State at home.
Oh, Lord.
Washington at home, we're at UCLA. So here's where I'm going with this. I see next year at best being a 7-5 season, and I see 2027 potentially being a 5-7 season. I don't see us getting any better. And I don't want to sit here and criticize Coach Schiano, because I have always respected him and thought he did wonderful things for Rutgers, especially in his first stint. But do we have the resources? Are we going to get the recruits? What I see going forward is the more things change, the more they're going to remain the same. I just don't see anything other than a mediocre record going forward, especially in the Big Ten. So what are your thoughts, both based on this season and what we can anticipate for the future?
Next season. Oh, my bad. Apologies. You go, Gabe.
Oh, word. Okay. I think that you're good. I think that we're gonna be shooting for 8 wins, and that's been my theme all year. Has been next year. Which, by the way, it's sad that my theme for this year is talking about next year. That shows a lot about the current program. But next year we got to shoot for 8 wins and be okay with 7. Anything less than 7 is a total rehaul. 7 is sustainable, but 8 is where you extend everybody, you keep the culture, and you keep it afloat. It's a lot easier. I mean, we talked about it. Indiana, okay, I'm not the one saying this, but most people will say chalk that up as a loss. USC, a lot of people assume that USC will beat us. Penn State, we proved we can be competitive, but this is going to be at Penn State. This is going to be at what's their town again? Isn't it called college? Like
State College,
Pennsylvania. Very interesting name for a town. Nebraska, that's 50-50, not 50-50. That's like 55-45 Nebraska. But we can win two of those games, really. And if we do win 2 of those games, now I said this year, and all those games that I said we can win, should win, might win, we didn't win any of them. But surely that doesn't happen again, right? Surely that was a case of luck, because the year before that, there were games that we shouldn't have won that we did win. You think Minnesota? I mean, there were losses too that we shouldn't have lost, like Wisconsin, Nebraska, UCLA. But my point is that if we can beat the teams that we should beat, which we did do this year, then we should be doing better than 5-7.
Well, we're going to lose to Penn State. We're going to lose to Indiana. We're going to lose to Michigan. We're going to lose.
You can't say we're going to with Penn State, though.
we're gonna in Happy Valley. I think we're gonna lose at Wisconsin. There's 5 losses.
You think we're gonna lose at Wisconsin?
No, they're not losing to Wisconsin. Oh, come on now.
Okay. All right. And look what we did at Minnesota this year.
Okay, Wisconsin did beat Washington. They did beat Maryland, I believe.
Right, well, that's 5 losses, and to go 7-5, that assumes we're going to beat Nebraska at home. We're going to beat Michigan State at home. We're going to win at Northwestern. We're going to win at Maryland and at Boston College.
Yes,
guys, I think this could be a 4-8 season.
No.
I truly see Rutgers being in the same situation that they were this year and going into conference play 3-0 because UMass is not going to be a problem, especially after them being one of the few teams this year in just Division I altogether to go winless. Boston College should be an easy win as well because Boston College right now is more. They aren't really getting a lot of recruits at that, as well as their offense is under Bill O'Brien so far have been terrible. Howard is most likely going to be the same type of dominance that we've seen Rutgers have against Norfolk State, another HBCU school. But Howard does have, giving them some credit, they are one of the better HBCU schools in terms of football. Maryland, I truly believe that it's going to be up in the hands. I'm truly 50-50 with Maryland because if Malik Washington is coming back under a second year, there's a possibility he might hit the transfer portal. But seeing how loyal he is to the Maryland area because he is, at the end of the day, a Maryland kid, I truly can see him. If he stays, it's going to be 50-50. If he goes, 100% see Rutgers winning. Northwestern without Pat Fitzgerald is going to be one of those years where Northwestern comes back to reality and they recognize that they're more of a music theater school than they are a football school. Penn State at Happy Valley is where I disagree with you, Adam. If this team was able to, they're going to use this loss from this year, seeing that they was at home, and I truly feel like that loss this year during senior day is going to have the team next year fight with a fire under them. I talked to one of the players on Rutgers right after the game. He already told me how it is for next year. And I truly believe that a lot of the players on that team are going to have the same mindset for that. I still agree with how Indiana and Michigan are going to be 2 losses because, to be completely honest, if there's an opportunity for Rutgers to upset either or of those teams, it could be Michigan, but Indiana is going to be tough. Indiana under Curcinetti has been amazing since he walked into that office just last year. Michigan State, I see them winning. Nebraska, I see them winning. USC is going to be most likely the blowout game that we saw with Oregon. And Wisconsin, they're going to win against Wisconsin. Wisconsin doesn't stand a chance. This team went 2-10 this year.
Yeah, Illinois might, or not Illinois, Indiana might make us look like Illinois next year.
How has Rutgers performed on the road? They barely beat Purdue when the game was gifted to them. I think they're going to lose to Camp Randall. I think they're going to lose to USC. They're going to lose to Michigan. They're going to lose to Indiana. They could lose. They'll lose one of the 2 at Boston College or Northwestern. And I think the best hope for them is 6-6. Now, as far as the players go, here's one thing I want to ask you guys about. I want to give a ton of credit to Ethan Kaliakmanis. I was at the game. Ethan was outstanding against Penn State. And yeah, I know the fumble, but look, he didn't lose the game for them. He's had an outstanding year, over 3,000 yards. We're not going to have Ethan Kaliakmanis. We're probably not going to have KJ Duff. We're probably not going to have Ian Strong, but we're still going to have that defense. And after what I saw at that game, I could see a 4-8 or 5-7 season being quite realistic and a ceiling of 7-5.
Well, we don't have Ethan next year, and that blows.
And Ethan deserves a shot in the NFL because what I saw in that game
was Max. What was his name? Max Brosmer. Oh, you're talking about from Rutgers, Penn State. Yeah.
Yeah, Ethan was on fire, and his accuracy was unbelievable. And KJ, I mean, he is just an NFL receiver. Ian Strong is going to have a shot in the NFL. I think KJ is going to transfer to a Big Ten or an SEC school, and I think Ian is probably going to go to the NFL. Now, does that mean Ben Black can be the next star? Possibly, but we still have with a new quarterback, AJ Serace, who I wish the best. Is Antoine Raymond going to be in the backfield? I don't think so.
I think Antoine will be. I
feel like if KJ or Ian is gone, they're going to be able to make sure they keep Antoine Raymond in Piscataway.
Yeah. That's the guy we have stick around, especially because Shiano has always been a running type of offensive
running
player.
backs guy.
This year was kind of an exception because we saw out of Ethan Kaliakmanis, I would call it the best quarterback season in Rutgers history. And I think that if AJ can do 80% what Ethan did last year, or we get another portal guy who can also throw lights out, I don't think we're going to have a bad quarterback again. And the second we do, I think that we're going to get someone who can throw the ball. I really hope, and I'm hoping that I'm not just saying this and that I'm sort of manifesting it because it's just what I feel now, that Ethan sort of set a precedent about how a quarterback should play at Rutgers. If we have teams reach back to earth somehow and look like a sustainable defense, because it's going to be 8 to 10 new guys back on the defense once again, and so it can't really get worse. And my thing is, my last point, and I was trying to make this point, but I forgot. I didn't realize you were talking about the Rutgers Penn State game still. And this is with all due respect to Mr. Max Brosmer, but if he can get a job throwing a football in the NFL, Ethan Kaliakmanis can absolutely get a job throwing a football in the NFL, because what we saw out of him for Minnesota yesterday was abysmal. And he played not better than Ethan did at Minnesota. So I think that Ethan is NFL bound. It's just, I'm not saying he's going to get drafted, but he will be on a team.
I think he has a good chance of being a backup on a team. I mean, and that's saying something, because he deserves credit. But when we're going to be losing what I think is the bulk of our receiving core, and I think Antoine Raymond, who reminds me very much of Kyle Monangai, a violent runner. I mean, fantastic. But I think, if Ohio State comes calling, or if Georgia comes calling with some money, you may not see him. But again, I go back to this thing with the defense. What is our defensive line had 3-4 sacks all year?
6 all year.
Okay. And our secondary got torched. So are we going to make the kind of overhaul that's going to turn us into a defense that can stop Michigan, even Nebraska, certainly not USC, at Penn State? I don't think so. And I think my question for you guys is, when it comes to Eric O'Neill and Bradley Weaver, do you think that this was a season where it showed they need more development, or do you think it showed that they're just not up to the task in the Big Ten? What's your thoughts?
Well, they're seniors, aren't they?
They are seniors.
Oh, they're seniors? I'm sorry. I thought they were juniors. My bad.
They're seniors, and just I would say on the Eric O'Neill standpoint, because Bradley Weaver, he had a good year in the MAC, but a lot of the MAC players so far this year, especially MAC transfers, didn't do as well so far this year. But going back to Eric, because coming into this season, Eric was coming off a year at James Madison, where James Madison honestly got put on the map. They were one of those teams. They were easily one of the best Group of 5 schools last year, as they are this year. And to be completely honest, they had a better defense last year than they did this year. And Eric O'Neill was a big part of that. He had, I think, 12 sacks last season. Only person that had more sacks than him was Mike Green. And he had one of the highest PFF pass rusher grades in the nation. And the only person that was higher than him as well was Mike Green. So if you look at the stats and just look at how he was graded by all the professionals and how he performed, whether it was in the bowl game where he was shooting the arrows that got Israel Adesanya to even give him props for doing the celebration, Eric looked like he was NFL bound. And he decided to say, you know what, let me take another year and let's see if I can do it against what NFL scouts look at, the 2 big conferences, SEC and the Big Ten. And he came to the Big Ten, and to be honest, he did have a downgrade of a year. He had less than twice of his sack total. He didn't really make that much of an impact in the tackle for loss game. He did show some good things on tape. He was able to maintain the edge against really good Big Ten tackles throughout the year, especially the Ohio State game. There was reps in that game where you saw him winning reps against good offensive tackles.
And Purdue, he looked good too. He looked fine towards the end of the year.
That's a plus, but the slow start that he had and the numbers, it did definitely affect what he's going to try to do at the next level, and it definitely affected how a lot of scouts viewed him at the next level. And now he has to really ball out at a lot of these a lot of these off-season scouter bowls, the Shrine Bowl, and if he gets invited, the Reese's Puff Senior Bowl.
Well, let me ask you guys this question then. We've been talking a lot about the players. Let's talk about the coaches. What I saw from Rutgers this year was a failure to make adjustments and a failure of the defense to improve week after week. What are your thoughts on Coach Shiano and the assistant coaches, defense, the DC, the OC, the position coaches? Because I felt like this year a lot of the in-game play calling was not good. And when I was at the Penn State game, what the hell are we doing with a fake field goal on 4th and 8?
I think that the defense. I think that the defense did improve, just very, very slim. What's the adverb for slim? Slimly doesn't sound right. Slightly. There you go. Thank you, Adam. That lawyer English knowledge coming in handy. But I think they improved ever so slightly because of the adjustments that they eventually made, which was the secondary got a little bit better, and not the pass rushing, but the pass pressure got a little bit better. And we saw Eric O'Neal get a lot better throughout the year from where he started off as a non-impact. And then all of a sudden against Purdue, against Ohio State, he looks like sort of the player we saw from him at JMU. And, Bradley Weaver, who we recruited as a run stop, he all of a sudden was getting some good pressure against the quarterback too. It's just a shame that some of these play calls cost us the season. The fake field goal cost us the season. You think sort of – well, I would say against Illinois, but against Illinois, that was probably our worst showing offensively, so I can't even talk about the fourth down calls or anything like that. It just feels like when it comes to the staff, they are smart, but they are situationally flawed. And the the calling for Greg Schiano as not a good game day coach, I will still say that he is easily the best recruiter we've ever had, the best overall coach we've ever had. But seeing some of the game day decisions, I don't know what's on him and what isn't, so I'm not putting all of it on him. But as a unit, it's his unit, and every decision comes back to him because of it's who he hires. Rob Smith, I know, wasn't the top priority when it came to the defensive coordinator. He was sort of I saw this really bad analogy, but he's sort of like the last option that you hire. And I'll tell you guys the analogy I heard after the show.
I already know the analogy.
Oh, you heard it?
Nah, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh my God. Yeah, I think I sent the link and then we saw it at the same time. But I just think, okay, Pat Flaherty, this was a down year for the O-line overall, and it was still a really good year for the O-line. It was just a down year for how it's performed in years prior. And I think that Gus Zilinskas feels like the safest, the most probable draft pick out of all of Rutgers. So I think that Pat Flaherty's done an awesome job. Kirk Soroka, sure, the offense didn't necessarily show up against Oregon. It didn't show up against Ohio State, but what offense does show up against Ohio State? So Ohio State, I'm not even that to me is cancel that one out because nobody performs well against Ohio State. The only game that I think we could have performed better offensively that we didn't was against Illinois. The rest of the year, I think Soroka was the best performing staffer, or the best performing coach rather, or coordinator at Rutgers. And Greg Schiano, the recruiter, is an A, even an A+, if you want to talk about sort of his Moneyball vision. Offensively, it worked like a gem. Defensively, I can't blame him at all, but because he had a lot of great pieces come that just didn't work out. That's sort of my take, is that the pieces looked great. Some of the hires weren't the best, but there were a lot of coordinators that did work out, and there were a couple stinkers. Not any person being a stinker, but just stinker situations. Rob Smith would not be a defensive coordinator for this team. Outside of that, I don't really have any qualms with the coordinating.
Well, I think you have to look at a couple things, which is what was their player evaluation criteria? because they clearly got people from the portal that did not perform. And when it comes even to the offense, if you look at the offense, they still were inconsistent. They were inconsistent in the second half against Iowa, against Washington, against Minnesota. Certainly didn't perform against Ohio State and Oregon. So when you say the pieces were there, I think some were, but I think there were too many deficiencies. And that goes back to recruiting, player evaluation. It also goes back to coaching in game. I mean, I'll give you one example. It's 4th and 8 against Penn State. Now, how in God's name is Jay Patel going to get 8 yards? Who called that play? And where Jay Patel's going to run for over 8 yards against that Penn State defense?
Here's the thing. Schiano decides whether you go for it or not. It's the play calling isn't him. That's Shiroka, but the decision is Schiano's.
Well, that's my point then. What was the rationale behind that? What was the urgency behind that? I mean, if it was 4th and 2, maybe. But we saw this happen last year, guys, against Nebraska, if you don't remember, when we tried another fake field goal that failed.
Yeah.
And, I do think there are some questions with the coaching decisions, but I think the overall problem I have is with the culture of Rutgers football, where we find a way to lose instead of finding a way to win.
Yeah, and, you talked about the 4th and 8 thing. I think what was even more crucial was the 4th and 1 decision to have Ethan fake it off to Raymond and then run to the left and have to hurdle over 2 Penn State defenders and then show up 2 yards short of the first down mark. Because to me, like at least with the fake field goal, there's the chance to catch them off guard. Ethan looked a little bit like he was running better against Penn State, but to me, that's like the only thing he's not great at is running the football. So why would you give it to someone who's not great at running the football when you have an otherworldly, for college football terms, running back behind you? I mean, to me, it's like Marshawn ball at the 1 yard line.
Exactly. To be completely honest with you on that, the play was a read option. And if you look at it, Dennis Sutton on that play was crashing hard on Antoine Raymond. So even if he did hand the ball off, he wasn't going to get there. It was really good defense by Penn State. But I do have an issue with that play call, because the play call that I think we talked about it on Saturday, the play call that they did on the next on the 2nd and 7 was led to Ethan's fumble. That's what the play call should have been on that 4th and 2, because Kenny Fletcher would have gotten them the first down on that because he was so wide open.
Yeah, he had a great game for us. That was probably his best game as a Scarlet Knight, right?
Well, wait a second. You said Dennis Sutton was crashing, right?
Yeah, he crashed on Antoine Raymond.
Where is he coming from? He's
coming. He was coming. It was. He's defensive. It was. Yeah, it was read option, and they were running it to Zane Durant's side. Zane Durant is the defensive end on the right side, and they're reading Dennis Sutton on the left. Sutton crashes, and the linebacker scraped over, and that was just a phenomenal play by that linebacker.
Jason, when you're saying based on film on PSU and you thought it could work, are you talking about the fake field goal or the 4th and 1 8th and keeper? I think you mean the keeper, and I would be inclined to agree. I think that what he should have done is maybe have, instead of a run option, have an RPO. If you don't see a lane for Antoine to run in, run slants with your, with Strong, with Duff, and have DT and Ben Black out there. Make it a 4 wide receiver run play option, run pass option. That would be what I would have done. But
I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have done exactly what Michigan did against Alabama in the Rose Bowl on 4th and 2 in the 4th quarter when they brought Blake Corum out of the backfield into the flat. I would have done the exact same thing with Antoine Raymond.
Yeah, my take on it. My take is the same way that I said before. That 2nd and 7 play would have hit on that 4th and 2 150%, because we ran that here, and that was the easiest first down play that we've had in our playbook.
Well, Donovan, you may have a future as a coach in college football, because you make a lot of sense, man.
Appreciate it. It's just I'm looking back at the highlights of that game right now. I'm looking straight at that 4th and 2 as well.
Why are you torturing yourself?
Because I'm just making sure that I'm not talking out of my ass when I'm saying that Dennis Sutton was crashing on that read option, and I'm looking at it, and he's heading down the line. He almost tackles both Ethan and Raymond, so it forced Ethan to hold on to the ball.
So why don't we have max protection with a running back that's accounting for him?
You know what's funny? We started this segment off as how do we think the coaches did this year? And now we're going play-by-play for the Penn State game, talking about what went wrong. I guess
I listened to Donovan because Donovan's a Division I player.
I guess that's fair.
Competed against the Florida Gators. So when it's about the opinions, I tend to defer to Donovan and you, Gabe, because I'm just an outside
I'm not a player. I don't want to be a player no more.
Well, you're a New York Knicks fan, actually, so that's a problem. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's the 12-6 Knicks, buddy.
Yeah, well, I mean, what about the New Jersey Nets?
New Jersey.
I wish they were the New Jersey. They would be more successful if they did.
I used to go to Nets games in the 80s at Brendan Byrne Arena when Michael Corrin was playing. But that's neither here nor there. So, guys, what do you think in this offseason? What's going to be the priorities for Rutgers?
Transfer portal, and it's going to be defense. And luckily for you, since Rutgers and Long Island University somehow, some way, for some reason, Coach Ron Cooper and Coach Greg Schiano are on such good terms with each other. I surely see a couple of players that are hitting the portal from my school that could make an immediate impact on Rutgers' defense. And the first person I just want to share the floor to is my man Jalen Bell. My dog J Bell for short. You can call him the Hammer. He's transfers, Jalen the Hammer, because he lays the boom. He's hitting transfer portal with 2 years of eligibility, a 6'1", 193 safety. And this past season, 73 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass deflections. That man was playing like a player possessed out on the field. This was just our final game of the year where he had 16 tackles.
16, you said?
16 tackles, forced honestly a game-changing fumble at the goal line. And Jay Bell, throughout the entire year, he has had a good nose for the football, and he's been a player that's going to lay the boom. He's had devastating hits throughout the entire season. I just think of the hit that he had against CCSU, where Central Connecticut tried to get him kicked out the game for targeting twice, and they were both clean hits. So he's an amazing player on that regard. My second player that I want to look at is Raph Fazzolino. He's a linebacker at LIU, and he's didn't play to finish off the year, but he can play as well box safety because our defense has had him drop into coverage multiple times, and he is a really good coverage linebacker. He's a player that really knows the game of defense, and he's a guy who's always in the film room, and he just knows how to get in. He knows when to attack, and he knows when a play is a run and when a play is a pass. 112 tackles on the year, 182 solo, 20 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 5 pass breakups. Against the game that we mentioned earlier against Florida, he had, I think, 7 tackles for loss against the Gators. And against his time of playing against Eastern Michigan in week 2, he did the same exact thing. He was flying around, absolutely flying around against Florida. Nobody was stopping him in man possess. This was against the first team still. As you see Lagway still in there.
Yeah, that was oh, my bad. I thought that you were still sharing that play. Did you say he was a middle linebacker?
Yes.
You know who that sounds like? That's like DeMario Davis numbers in the NFL. Like that's straight up like 112 tackles and 12. You say he didn't even play all 12 games?
No, he had a shoulder injury to end off the year. The last game that he played was Duquesne. So he didn't play our final 2 games, but he was amazing. Yeah. He attacks. If you're able to see this is against Florida's first team. Sideline to sideline, fills up the gaps. He's able to scrape, and his pursuit and the way that he takes angles on tackles is absolutely phenomenal. So I truly believe that 2 of these guys, whether it's in the run or in the pass, they're going to make an immediate impact if Rutgers looks at them. And hopefully this is an opportunity for any Rutgers scouts or any fans of Rutgers that watches and wants to repost the film and send it out to these coaches. There's an opportunity to potentially have Rutgers have another great players that came from LIU.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret that we get guys from LIU, and those sound like two good guys. Speaking of safeties, it's funny because Jet Elod this whole year has played like one of our better defenders, and he was fighting a legal eligibility case all year. And right before Penn State, it gets overruled, but he appeals and gets to play against Penn State. So now whatever decision happens, it affects him not at all. Like he played a whole year, and they can rule that he shouldn't have played this year, and he still played this year. So shout out to Jet Elod fighting to stay on the team. At the end of the day, even if the defense didn't look that great out there, he definitely wasn't really hurting the team. He had a couple of bad plays in the first few weeks, but he, like Cam Miller, like Bo Masco, like Eric O'Neill, certainly improved as the year went along. And Jason, I saw this that a couple of UConn guys might be in the transfer portal for us. I'm very intrigued because unfortunately with Rutgers, most of our talent comes from or not necessarily unfortunately, but I'm just saying that based off of how this past year went, because you saw Eric O'Neill, Bradley Weaver kind of underperform. But it seems like a lot of these guys come from FCS schools, so it'll be interesting to see who UConn gets, if those guys at LIU are in play. And yes, the Louisville commit in question, we went over him earlier, Devontae Anderson, the cornerback. And yes, he is very speedy. I believe class of 2026 out of Florida, so I'm excited for him. Do you guys think that AJ Surace is our quarterback next year? Or do you think, because I got this feeling that even though AJ Surace did have his moments out there, and I believe he should get a chance, I got this feeling that we're going to go out and recruit someone. Or
we ain't going to know that answer to the question until spring game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think one of the most important things that they have to focus on in the next 9 months is getting a defensive line and edge rushers that can pressure the quarterback. That is the biggest thing, because great defense starts in the trenches, and we were just not competitive in that regard. Did not disrupt quarterback's timing, did not get pressure. That's what we have to solve on defense, because it all begins with that. Because how is the secondary going to be effective if you're giving the quarterback 3-4 seconds to throw every time? And you saw that even against Penn State.
What if we got a Johnny Shepard back? He left because he wanted to play. So he goes to Washington State, but then he doesn't get to play there either. And they overperform. They're 6-6. So clearly they're okay with their quarterback. Would you guys welcome back a Johnny Shepard if he declared for the portal, and then him and Shiano sort of had a coming back together moment?
I welcome competition.
100% at the end of the day. The players come back from the portal all the time. My apologies.
No, you're good. I think a Johnny Shepard is a good target. I don't really know who else would be there, and they do really like Surace. I think that Surace should go into camp as QB1, and any other quarterback should have to earn it, unless we get one of these top quarterbacks in the nation out here deciding they want to put Rutgers on the map. And I wouldn't necessarily be opposed if anyone did want to do that.
Well, the best way to do that, I think, for a program like Rutgers is to not get a quarterback that's already a star, but to get one that is an emerging star, because otherwise the top-notch quarterbacks are not going to come here. You got to be able to identify that talent. But I think our offense is going to have some challenges next year with what I anticipate will be some big losses. But even if the offense is outstanding, without a credible defense, it will be a repeat of this year. So I think huge focus has to be on that defensive line.
Ignacio, you're not a Shepard guy, huh? I mean, he didn't really play at Washington State, but we don't know how significant the QB1 to QB2 situation was. They did go 6-6 this year, which is a lot better than we thought they would be. And I do agree, Jason, there's not necessarily a huge need for retreads, especially because Adam emphasized it that the more change that happens at Rutgers, the better. And that's not just because we need to flip a staff or flip positions. It's because you're always looking to change, especially with NIL being so prevalent. You need to constantly be evolving and adapting. And so change doesn't necessarily mean change of staff it could mean change of staff, but it means constantly changing how you feel, your mindset coming into recruiting, into game planning, into game day, all of it. So I think that Johnny Shepherd, if he were to come, at least it would be some competition.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is important to point out is that this is just as about the coaches and the players. Kelly Zinn has a very important job here, a critical role in improving this program, and it starts with NIL, and it also starts with her making difficult decisions. I know she's in her first year here, so she's not going to come in here and rock the boat and disrupt the relationships that Coach Shiano has built. But at some point, it's not just going to be about how many millions you have in NIL. It's going to be about, can you get the players and the coaches that are going to bring you to that next level? And I suspect she's going to have some serious decisions to make in the next year or two, and I hope that she does that. Coming from LSU and a championship pedigree, I anticipate that her standard is going to be one that does not tolerate many more of these seasons.
Yeah, you nailed it. You hammered the nail in there. And I'm interested too. I'm not even recruiting for KJ to stay anymore because I've gone through my 5 stages of grief, and I do believe that KJ is not going to be on this team next year. If he is on this team, holy hell will I be happy about it. But I don't think it's dependent on Ian Strong. He's his own guy, and he showed against Penn State that, I mean, it's crazy how one catch can open up so many eyes. He's on SportsCenter now. He's being shouted out by players both from Rutgers and across the nation, all over social media. And so he's everywhere. He's a superstar. He's probably got the most spotlight that a Rutgers receiver has had, maybe since the Sanu and Kenny Britt days.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. That catch is a catch that probably only a handful of people in the world could have made. And that was unbelievable. And congratulations to KJ. And wherever he goes, if he does go, and any other Rutgers player, we wish them the best of luck. But what I want to hear from Kelly,
let's not manifest that, though. He is not going to Ohio State. No.
He's not going to have no space there. Ohio State just gets receivers.
Yeah. Well, what I want to know from Kelly Zinn is, what is your vision for the program? What is your timeline for turning Rutgers into a program that Ohio State, that Michigan, that USC has to take seriously? And you're going to have a better NIL, but I think Kelly Zinn at some point is going to have to confront some difficult questions, and I hope that she has the courage to come up with the answers that may lead to some changes at Rutgers. And I'm not saying firing Coach Shiano, but changes to the structure and the culture of the program that are going to make us successful. Kelly Zinn is LSU. And I'm telling you, at LSU, they would never tolerate this. I have to believe
she would have gotten do you think she would have gotten Lane Kiffin if she were still at LSU?
Of course. Yes, I think she would have.
The governor was trying to make sure LSU got Lane Kiffin. She would have got it done.
That's true, Donovan. Yeah, Donovan's right.